Hello everybody, and we're now at 2004. Time is flying.
Oh yeah, that's right. All you single people out there, this is for you.
Hi there. So here's a few of the things that I was interested in 2004. At least that I remember from what I've looked at. Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook. I didn't join Facebook for quite a while, and I'm considering leaving it right now. But yeah, 2004, that's when it first started. And the other event that caught my eye was the Cassini-Huygens probe arrived at Saturn that year. This is a thing that I've been following for quite a while, long before the launch happened, back in what must have been 6 years before that. Because of when they launched it and when and where Saturn was in relation to Earth and the solar system, they had to plan a trajectory that meant it was going from Earth around the Moon and then around Venus, then back around Earth, and then basically quite a long way around to get there, all using a gravitational pull to accelerate it into the outer solar system for it to reach Saturn. And anyway, back in the 90s, early 90s, when I was unemployed, I used to watch the Open University on BBC Two, specifically the science programs they had on. There was one that I used to watch all the time, which was called Images of the Cosmos, and that was basically astrophysics and stars and space stuff, really. So to basically start off with a picture of the solar system, picture of stars and so on, and you get to various astrophysicists talking about the science behind it, how they made these images and how they explored these things. One of the things they showed was some mainly students in the late teens, early 20s at the University of Hull building parts that were going to be on a probe that was going to Saturn. This was the part of the Huygens probe. So the Cassini-Huygens, if you don't know, was Cassini was the main bit. It was a big thing that was orbiting around Saturn for a while. Huygens was a little probe attached to the side of it, and what Huygens was going to do was detach from the main body, Cassini, and then land on one of Saturn's moons, Titan. Titan has an atmosphere, and despite it being very cold, it's got put it this way, it's so cold that the seas are liquid methane. So they showed this technician type doing experiments on devices that were going to be dropped into Titan, and one of the things he was studying, he was experimenting with, was a little thing about that big, made of metal. And this was a thing that's going to measure the density of the surface of the moon Titan. So this was going to be the first thing that would touch the surface as the probe hit the ground. He had to decide what would be the best shape for this object. So basically he had a little cone-shaped one and a spherical one, square one, whatever, flat surface. And he was just dropping these things into basically a pile of dirt and measuring the basically they had a force inducer in it, so it could measure how hard it hit the surface, and basically he was determining what's the best shape for this thing to get an accurate reading. They ended up with a spherical probe thing, and this particular chap was called Ralph Lorenz, and so I used to watch him doing these things and being this sort of thing that would have been really quite boring if you weren't interested in science or were not unemployed and I needed to go to work in the morning, so we're watching TV at 2 a.m. in the morning. But anyway, 10 years later, must have been more than 10, maybe 12 years later, this device he built actually reached Saturn. And so he made the thing that was the first human-made object to touch the surface of Titan. Which took me a while to find this chap's name, because I couldn't remember his name from it, and I had to look through the Wikipedia page, which is very comprehensive on the Cassini-Huygens probe. But I had to go quite a way down to actually find his name. And Caroline Porker's name was quite visible, at least 3 or 4 times I saw that, looking through the references and stuff. She incidentally is one of the scientists who translated and processed most of the images that came from there, so probably spending a lot of time in Photoshop, or a similar version of Photoshop, to make these pictures look nice. Yeah. Anyway, that was one of the things that was interesting to me in 2006. A few people died in 2006 that I was aware of. Let's have a look at some names. Helmut Newton, the photographer, German photographer, passed away that year. As did Peter Ustinov, a British actor, writer, comedian. So some of you may know him as he played Poirot on the Orient Express and other things like that. He did a joke once, remember, on one of the shows he had on ITV, was An Audience With, I think, something like that, which involved the naming of the kangaroo down in Australia. And the story he gives, it's probably apocryphal or maybe just a joke, but the story he told was white settlers had arrived in Australia, and the British chap, and is having a first conversation with a native, an Aborigine, and a kangaroo goes by, and the Englishman says to the Aborigine, "So what do you call that then?" And the Aborigine just says, "Kangaroo," and to which and so the white man says, "Oh, kangaroo, oh, that's interesting." And then later on it turned out that kangaroo was basically translated as "I don't know." So probably not a true story at all, but it's the kind of thing that shows the kind of mistakes people make when talking to each other, when communication isn't as good as it could be. But yeah, other people who died: Ronald Reagan, the ex-American president; Ray Charles, the singer; Marlon Brando, the actor type. Got a list here. Rick James, famous for his music; Henri Cartier-Bresson, everybody's favourite photographer, I think. He's the one who I remember him saying about his photography, because you take a lot of pictures to get a decent picture, and the analogy he used in this documentary I saw of him was you got to milk a lot of cows to get a little cheese. So it's a bit like photography, snap away, and then out of that 36 roll of film, if you get 4 or 5 really good pictures, that's your job done. Mind you, nowadays the digital, people will take 300 photographs just to get that one picture. So anyway, Fay Wray passed away that year. You may remember her from the original King Kong movie. Christopher Reeve, Superman. Janet Leigh passed away that year. She was famous for her role in Psycho. Yeah. So when people saw that film the first time, Janet Leigh was a big star back then, so people were expecting her to be the lead of the movie. And so when she, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Psycho, but so jump ahead a few seconds, she dies in the first quarter of an hour, and the rest of the film is about Psycho. Johnny Ramone of the Ramones. Rodney Dangerfield, the comic actor and comedian mainly. And also, and this is the one that hit me the most actually, was John Peel died that year. And this is the one that affected me the most, because I used to listen to him on the radio all the time, well, 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week. And recorded the cassettes, the John Peel show, and his music and his conversation. And it was very hard when he passed away. So I remember he's the only radio and DJ that actually played a record of mine played a request of mine on his show. Back when I was still living with Mum and Dad, it was my dad's birthday. So I phoned him up, because you could actually do that. You just pick up the telephone and speak to the DJ while he was broadcasting. After the first phone call I tried to make to him, I phoned up the BBC number, the number that I found in the Radio Times, and I got a secretary. And she told me that, I can't. And she said that she couldn't hand me to him because he was broadcasting, he was working. And anyway, I found another number, the number that you can call. And I phoned him up, and he answered the phone, which was a bit unexpected, and I laughed. And he says to me, I don't see what's so funny about that. just him saying hello. Anyway, I told him that it was my dad's birthday, he's from Uganda. If you have any Ugandan records, any chance you could play a record for him? And he took his name down and said, alright. And literally 10 minutes after that phone call, he called on the radio and said, Ignatius had a birthday today, and here's a record for you. So I played a record for my dad. Great. Yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts on 2004. When I was 36, getting older, living alone and enjoying my solitude, actually. I'll be honest with you. Anyway, take care everybody, and see you tomorrow.